As a DM, I love violence, but sometimes a more peaceful solution is required, and that is where a negotiation comes in. Negotiation adds some basic mechanics to roleplay with high stakes and consequences. Perhaps you're trying to strike a bargain with a gang leader who's taken an important NPC hostage, or you are trying to make a deal with a powerful warlord and turn him against some of your own enemies. These negotiations can go really right or really wrong depending on how your party role plays. So, how do they work? I want to make it clear, negotiations do not put constraints on your ability to roleplay. I know the idea of mechanics being involved in your play acting can be a bit scary, but trust me when I say negotiations add so much to your ability to get something out of a conversation when playing Draw Steal. It does not weigh you down at all, and often you're not even going to be realizing the mechanics are in place. They can also act as a really good guardrail if you're not a theater kid who wants to act out everything you say. If you still want to interact with characters, negotiations are really good if you're more of a noob when it comes to roleplay. It's good for both sides of the spectrum. With that being said, negotiations revolve around a few keywords. The first one is interest. The higher an NPC's interest is, the more likely they are to give you something that you want. It ranges from 0 to 5. 5 being yes and, in that an NPC will give you what you want and then some, with 0 being no and, in that an NPC is not going to give you what you want, and on top of that, there may be some consequences for your foolishness. You want to get an NPC's interest as high as possible. Next up is patience. Patience essentially acts as like your hit points during negotiation. Once your patience inevitably reaches 0, the negotiation is over. Whatever the NPC's current interest level is set in stone, and based on that interest level, you either get a good outcome if it's high or a bad outcome if it's low. Your party is going to present arguments, either as united front or maybe as individuals depending on how you want to play it. Each argument has a power roll. If you roll well, the NPC's interest might go up, leading to more rewards. If you roll badly, the NPC's patience might go down, meaning you get to make less arguments in the future and you have less opportunities to make that interest go higher. When making arguments, you're going to want to keep track of motivations. NPCs all have their own motivations, stuff that drives them to do the things that they do. For example, the Sovereign, a powerful part-dragon warlord, is motivated partially by family. She has gone on a massive conquest to avenge her slain son. So if you're trying to get her to do what you want, you're going to want to appeal to that motivation. NPCs will have multiple motivations, and I recommend as a director you encourage your players to interact with all of them and to learn what motivates characters and get into their stories so that negotiations go better. NPCs also have pitfalls. Pitfalls in negotiation are things an NPC really doesn't like. Going back to the Sovereign, she is not motivated by money and hates rich people. So, if your player characters offer her tons of gold in order to get what you want, then she's going to consider that dishonorable, and that will act as a pitfall for her, meaning you are going to lose patience very, very fast, and this negotiation is going to come to an end, perhaps with low interest, meaning that your player characters are more unlikely to get what you want. Essentially, a negotiation boils down to this. You are trying to increase an NPC's interest as much as possible before their patience inevitably runs out. You do this by making arguments that appeal to their motivations while avoiding their pitfalls. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, there's a couple of specific things that you can do during a negotiation to uncover motivations and pitfalls. For starters, you can make a power roll to straight up figure out what an NPC's motivation is. If you're doing this during the conversation with the NPC while the negotiation is going on, though, it's very likely their patience is going to decrease, and your amount of time to make important arguments is going to go down. So, yeah. Do this sparingly and try to use your own knowledge of the character to figure out the motivations yourself without making a power roll in order to do it. But assuming that you make an argument with a motivation, when you make a power roll, their interest is very likely to increase, with a tier 2 or above roll increasing their interest. If you make an argument that doesn't appeal to their motivation at all, then you might still be able to increase their interest, but you need to roll really, really well in order to do it. And meanwhile, if you make an argument that introduces a pitfall, it's likely that both their interest and their patience is going to go down. Patience is always going down, but falling into pitfalls will make it go down much, much faster. So like I said before, avoid that. With all that being said, let's do an example negotiation. The party are meeting with that warlord I mentioned earlier, the Sovereign. They've already done some quests with her before, but now they're asking her for something big. They want her to send her armies against an orcish warlord that's encroaching on the party's stronghold. They really need her help. And while they have helped her in the past, she still needs some convincing. My DM has set the Sovereign's interest to 3. She's already pretty interested in the party, but her time is short, so her patience is only 2. I probably only have 2 arguments in order to convince her. I make my first argument, offering her some gold in exchange for her help. But, oh god, like I said earlier, that's a pitfalls of the Sovereign. Her patience has automatically decreased. It's only 1 now. Her interest has stayed at 3, which is good, but if I make a really bad argument, that interest might go down. I might lose out on any opportunity to get her help. So, with 1 patience left, I only have 1 more argument to make. I appeal to her motivation of family. I tell her that, like her, many people are losing their children to this orcish warlord. I need her help to stop that from happening. Okay, I appeal to her motivation. I roll a power roll, and oh, look at that. I got a 17 plus. That is a tier 3 success. Not only does her interest go up to 4, but her patience also doesn't decrease on this roll. Her patience still 1. I still have 1 more argument. I go back. I make an argument about how she might be able to expand her territory by taking on this orcish warlord. Expansion of territory, an appeal to power, is not one of her motivations, but it's also not one of her pitfalls, so I make a power roll again. I roll a mediocre roll, tier 2. Her patience goes down and her interest doesn't go up, but still, we end off with an interest of 4. That is a success, meaning that the Sovereign will give me access to her army. She won't give me anything more than that, but still, I have successfully completed this negotiation. I hope that helped you to understand how negotiations worked and helped you to get some inspiration for your own Draw Steel campaign. Now, all this talking is great, but with the Sovereign's army, I've got an orc warlord to kill, so I'm gonna get out there and draw steel.